Verse number 1, Yoga Instructor. Let me give you an example. When I was just getting started, I was in the real estate business and I used to teach these classes at local adult education centers. They were community centers that had catalogs full of programs that people could take. Most of them were in dancing or yoga or grief counseling or dating or Tibetan basket weaving or whatever. But there I was. I had a course about understanding complicated home mortgages, not exactly the best fit for the picture. I was more like the one of these things is not like the other program option. Anyway, these places send out thousands of catalogs and people sign up to attend whatever classes they want. Looking back now, it was such a disaster. You'd get a handful of people at each class, but it was never more than 10 people. One day, I had one of my classes and, get this, a grand total of 1 person showed up. So brutal, but it ended up being a fascinating evening. In fact, it actually ended up changing my whole perspective on life. You have to understand, this was a difficult time for me. I wasn't making any money and was giving these courses to try and find new clients. The people who showed up were possible clients for me. So coming in and finding 1 person in the room, well, at the time, it just seemed like all the failures in my life were sitting right there in all those empty chairs. It was awful. So there he was, this one guy. My audience of 1. His name was Howard and he was a yoga instructor. Now, I've met a lot of yoga instructors. I've even dated 1 or 2. And from my experience, I can tell you that most of them are struggling to make ends meet. I mean, some do better than others, but they are generally not rolling in cash. You know what I mean? Well, this guy was a different story. Keep in mind that there are only 2 people in the room, Howard and me, so I did my session, but we ended up talking about all sorts of stuff. This guy was a bit of a local celebrity, at least in the yoga world. And he was attending my course because he had a number of investment properties and wanted to learn more about real estate financing. A yoga instructor with multiple investment properties. Given my dating experience, investment property management didn't come up in conversation very often, so suffice it to say, I was baffled. Turns out, this guy did a lot more than just teach yoga. He held these 4- and 5-day yoga retreats in Sedona and Santa Fe and a few other exotic desert locations. And these retreats weren't cheap either. They cost thousands of dollars and they were featured right there on his website homepage. He had written a few books too, all about the yoga lifestyle, and they were featured on his website as well. So who knew? When he first said he was a yoga instructor, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head. I dismissed him as just another hokey left-wing meditation type with worn-out Birkenstocks and too much hair in all the wrong places. I pictured someone teaching yoga at the studio down the street, nothing more. But when he told me about these retreats and the books, my whole perspective changed. This guy was a guru. And taking my course, as it turned out, wasn't his first brilliant idea. Pause. Bottom line. This guy was an expert. An authority. He had a following, an audience, and he was helping people change their lives. In social dynamics theory, they talk about frames. A frame is your point of reference when you interact with someone. Well, my frame completely changed. When he first said yoga instructor, I had 1 frame, a small frame, a short-sighted one. But when he told me about the retreats and books, I immediately shifted into a new frame, a much bigger frame. Verse number 1, wine jelly. So about a year later, I had started giving another course about online marketing. I had published a podcast series about the mortgage business and it became really popular. It was the exact same content as the course I was giving. But at the time, there weren't a lot of people podcasting about the real estate business, so my series really took off and I got a good deal of attention because of it. So I started giving this course about online marketing. I was giving it one evening and one of the attendees had a small business selling wine jelly. Yes, it's jelly made from wine, and trust me, I didn't understand it any more than you do. I live in Northern California, so the Napa Valley is right up the road. So this guy was producing and selling wine jelly. I don't know if you've tried this stuff or not. I've never tried it myself, as I generally try to stick with the old-fashioned liquid variety, but apparently it's tasty. but we started talking about websites and how to present your business online, and I asked him what his menu of products was. He told me he had a variety of different options ranging from a $4 jar to a package of jars for $26. So this guy was selling products ranging in price from $4 to $26. Now, I don't know about you, but there isn't really anything that inspiring to me about this product lineup. To me, I think of a retail shelf vendor and not much more than that. It made me think about Howard and his little yoga empire, so I told this guy that he should introduce an annual 3-day luxury retreat up in Napa. On one of the days, he could have maybe a workshop teaching people how to make wine jelly in their own homes. And on another day, he could include a private tour of a fancy winery. He could serve 3 meals each day and have wine jelly paired with each one. I told him he should charge $3,000 and feature it right on his homepage. Poor guy. I totally caught him off guard. He said, "But what if nobody buys it? Who cares? It doesn't matter if anyone buys it or not, at least not in the beginning. So who cares? The point is that if he featured this annual 3-day retreat on his website, it would completely change the frame for people who found him online. In the first case, he'd be selling little jars of jelly, nothing special. In the second case, he'd be selling a hobby, a passion, a lifestyle. He'd hold the keys to a parallel universe. A world full of culture, romance and good food." Pause. The point is that we can project ourselves or our businesses in any way we choose. It's up to us. Think back to the 10x version of your own goal, the steroid version, the Trump version. If you present that version, people will react totally differently than if you present the smaller version. And don't second guess whether people will want to engage on a deeper level or not. You have no idea what people will do. I'll tell you something, never underestimate the passion of your audience. There are people in your audience who are more passionate about what you do than you are.